Whether or not it's Rishi Sunak, I don't know that. But what do the public think of this? And of course, they cannot but conclude, in the majority, that she's been incompetent and inconsistent, that she's quite as responsible as Kwasi Kwarteng for the mini budget. She, in fact, promoted it. She went on about it all summer. So although people find the intricacies difficult, you know, what is a bond yield, what is a gilt, all this sort of stuff they find difficult. But they don't find it difficult to think she's putting all the blame on someone when she should also put the blame on herself. And I don't think people are prepared to forgive that. I think it's a very simple, straightforward question. If he has to go, why shouldn't she go too? And as the days go by, I think the Conservatives will, as they often have done in the past, look into the abyss. Now, they may spend more time looking into the abyss before coming to the conclusions that you've come to, but I think before long they will realise that the game is up and she's got to go.
I've come to this conclusion because it seems to me that all other options are impossible, but it may be worth just running through them. Do you think it's conceivable that the Conservatives could have another leadership election?
Not in the way that they have had, because apart from anything else, the public were extremely irritated by this strange election with these odd people. I don't mean odd individually, but odd in terms of who do they represent?
Not typical.
Not typical. So they may have been decent, good people trying to do their best, going through this fog of what was it all about, being given a prospectus which seemed to be, on the one hand, you know, light and shining and the sun coming up every morning and all lovely, and the other one, gloomy, we've got to put up taxes, all going to be difficult. So not surprisingly, they went for her and thought, oh, well, Liz, she must know what she's talking about. And what was extraordinary, I suppose, for the general public was that so many of the newspaper commentators, who now, some of them, asking her to go, was that, oh, it's all credible and so on. But the emergence of the markets, which of course we know, because we're old, we know the markets do incredible damage, and as Margaret Thatcher famously said, you can't buck the markets. For a long time they have been quite quiescent. That was the difficulty for people to understand. But of course when they move, gosh, do they move?
So I was asking you to rule out options. So I also think we can't have another long leadership election. So somehow the Conservative Party has to devise a way of getting a leader not by that process. Now, I also said that if they don't do that, we're going to find our way to a general election by means that are not presently foreseeable. This is a tricky one. How do we get there? But it seems to me that if this chaos continues, somehow the demand of the public will be for a general election, and the Conservative Party, I think, eventually would have to tumble into that, unless, as I say, it can find a replacement pretty soon.
Well, it comes a point when you get all sorts of actions from the government, which then, if they're not agreed by Parliament, if they lose confidence of Parliament, well, you are very close to a general election almost sort of by default. You don't necessarily, I mean, things can be deemed a vote of no confidence. They don't have to be a vote of no confidence. A budget, what if when they put all their bits and pieces together, completely different from the mini budget? Well, and the Parliament then votes against it or doesn't pass it. What happens then? So
the government would, of course, insist that the vote on the budget was a vote of confidence, because they would think that was their best way of winning in Parliament. Of course, it might have a different consequence.
That's what I'm saying. So not intended before they know where they are suddenly. Oh, my goodness me, this is a vote of confidence because we said it was going to be when we're trying to encourage our supporters at least to give the government a chance. That's where the difficulty lies.